Human history is riddled with the remnants of many different civilizations. Just like the temperature rises and falls, some civilizations rise to unimaginable power. However, just as they rise, they usually fall with a force so great that it often changes the world forever. While many of these cultures will come to dominate the different parts of the world at different times throughout history, some will become more visible than others. Arguably one of the greatest of these was that of the Roman Empire. For some 2,000 years, Rome was the center of the world. Millions of people lived and died under the Roman Empire. Their government, science, and architecture are still with us today. In this film, we hope to show you a few aspects of that culture and give you an idea of just how the Roman people lived their lives day in and day out.
The basic units of Roman society were households and families. These were owned by what you call paterfamilias, which mean father of the household. It's similar to today because you had a wife, your children, with a few exceptions of actually having slaves in the household. But other than that, you had your average nuclear family. The head of the household, which was the father, had a huge majority of power over the rest of the family. He could dictate who his daughter got married to. He could sell his own children into slaves, and he could also even kill his family members, and it being illegal back then under probable cause. When it came to marriage, usually the father began picking the husband before the daughter was already at a teen age. Usually the daughter would actually get married in her teens from 15 to 18. And the husband was usually much older than the daughter. Similar to today, divorce was common in the Roman Empire. About 1/6 of the families did engage in a divorce. It wasn't considered a social taboo as it is now, but more accepted into the society that they lived in.
The social structure of Rome was composed of several different levels. These varied between the Republic and the empires, which were two distinct parts of the Roman period. The three distinct levels were there were four, the third one being phased out near the end of the empire, but basically four main ones. You had the patricians, who were the noble families. They were composed of mainly senators. They were the ones who in the early Republic really ran day-to-day affairs. They ran the government. After that, you had the plebeians, who were everybody else that weren't patricians. They were the mob, if you will. They were the people. They were the population of Rome. Later on, you would have the equites. If anybody rides horses, they'll know the term equestrian, and that's where that comes from. Is the people who originally made up the horse part of the military, or the cavalry part of the military. These were successful businessmen, people who had made very well using commerce within Rome and had gotten to the level where they could participate in government as well. Slaves were an investment. You bought a slave from a slave trader, who usually were prisoners of war, who usually weren't Roman or Greek citizens but had come from other places around the world. They were an investment and they were to be treated as such, which is why many slaves, in some ways, depending on the industry, avoided maltreatment or harsh treatment because they were investments, and to treat a slave badly and to hinder their performance would be a loss of investment and a loss of money. Loss of performance equals a loss of money. So slaves were a very large part of the Roman world. They built much of what we see today and much of what remains of the Roman Empire in terms of structures and symbols and whatnot.
In ancient Rome, religion was it deviated from their native religion. It would often be mixed with for example, Greek religion. They worshipped many of the same gods as the Greeks used to. They actually kind of replaced their own gods with the Greek gods. If you asked a typical Roman who Jupiter was, sometimes they may tell you a story about Zeus. More archaic Roman or someone who was used to the old ways might tell you a story about Jupiter. Many people believe that Christianity was always the official religion of the Roman Empire. However, this was not always true. Before Constantine came to power and actually declared Christianity the official religion of the empire, there was a lot of kind of mishmashing and mixing of the religions. They would take from the Greeks, they would take from the Egyptians. A lot of people worshipped Cyrus. Depending on the era, they would actually just worship, if they had a famine, they would worship the agricultural gods, or if there was a war, they would pray to the different gods of war from the different countries. Another large phase of the Roman religious practices was the imperial cult, which was basically the belief that the Caesar, or whoever was in power at the time, was a god. Many oracles or priests would actually build temples in their honor and worship them. Because of the strife and fighting over what should be the dominant religion in the Roman Empire, on his deathbed, Emperor Constantine I made Christianity the official religion of the empire. He did this in the Edict of Milan. The reason why Christianity is so prevalent today is because of what Constantine did. A major factor in it being the religion of 95% of the United States is because first, it was made the official religion of the Roman Empire.
As you can see, this empire that exists now only in ruins and history books continues to influence us today. All that one needs to do is look around and they will see the evidence of this vast and powerful culture that once existed. The dominant family in the United States today is the nuclear family. Most of us have grown up with one or two adults in our lives at any given time. If you were to travel back some 2,000 years to present-day Italy, you wouldn't feel too far from home. Even the social structure of Rome somewhat mimics that of today, from government officials to the plebeians who were the ancient middle class. Rome was the center of it all. Of course, not all aspects of ancient Rome were like today. Excluding the later years of the empire, various forms of paganism made up the dominant religion, while Christianity was a vast minority. Only with the coming of Constantine and the Edict of Milan would Christianity finally have room to grow. Rome, like all of the other great empires throughout history, did eventually fall. This is a trait that we find very evident throughout all of recorded human history. This begs the question, is today really any that different? The United States may not be a territorial empire like that of Rome, but is it a cultural one? That question we leave to you. Thank you.